There's a secret to peace in retirement that virtually, nobody really talks about. Uh, you work your whole life, you saved, you took care of your family, you look forward to retirement, and maybe it's great, but maybe not. If you're honest, maybe you feel like something is a little bit off. You're maybe a little restless. Like something is still missing, like missing piece of a puzzle. Welcome back to my channel, Old, Retired, and Still Learning. I'm glad you're here. If you like the content, gently tap the like button and subscribe. The secret I want to talk about to peace is having a heart of thanksgiving to God. Now hang in there with me. Whether you're a lifelong believer or you're just curious, because I think you'll like what I have to share with you. Here's what nobody tells you before you retire. Most of your life, you identify with your work and what you did, and you had a schedule and a purpose. People needed you, and then one day, boom, that just cuts off and it stops, and it's a big adjustment. I don't think people realize how big it may be, and I think after a while, I got not depressed or anything like that, but kind of anxious, still worrying about things that I really couldn't control anyway. But I think a lot of retirees feel that way. You might worry about your health. You might worry about your finances, your kids, your grandkids. What kind of legacy are you going to leave them? And of course the world doesn't help. Watching TV or social media or whatever. Everything's pretty messy. I want to make this distinction because I think it matters. There's a lot of talk today about, gratitude as a self-help practice. Write it in a journal, count your blessings, think positive thoughts, and choose things that can help. But what I'm talking about is something deeper. It's a sincere, direct thankfulness towards God, thanking Him out loud, silently, recognizing Him as the source of all that's good. There's a verse that I love. It's from Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 through 7. It says, be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God, and the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. And I love that. And he says with thanksgiving. It's not just asking God for stuff. We're human beings, and I think we get locked into that. That it's all about, just asking Him for stuff and being thankful for that type of thing. But it's more than that. It's coming to Him with a grateful heart already. What happened with me was, you find that my circumstances weren't, necessarily easier in retirement. But I started, taking some time to genuinely thank God. before bed, when I get up, of course, for the meals that I eat and so on. Hey, I woke up this morning. That's something. I'm still living. I've lived long enough to retire, and I've been retired for something like 6 years now. Something happens when you're you've probably heard the expression, have an attitude of gratitude. And I think that's true. Anxiety starts to lose a lot of its grip. And there's so many things that you see that you used to get all anxious about. And, now it's really not that big a deal in the light of, God's goodness and, where you'll spend eternity if you're a believer. That's where the peace comes from, not from getting things figured out, but trusting the one that does have it all figured out. Now, I don't know that there's just one way of, thanking God or anything like that, as far as, when you thank Him or anything like that. But, every morning for me, I try to thank Him before I even get out of bed and pray for my loved ones and so on. Before I turn on the phone, I don't always succeed at that, but most of the time I do. Reading from His Word and just being thankful to Him for all that He's blessed me with, especially with the spiritual blessings. The Bible talks about spiritual blessings in heavenly places. When I go through the day, I also try my very best not to complain. Saying things like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe how expensive everything is," and instead, just redirect it to, what I have, Lord, is good. It's not denial. It's just choosing to look at where I put my attention. Some people keep a gratitude journal. What I do personally is write down 3 things I'm thankful for every day in the morning, typically after I've read my Bible, and at least one of them needs to be spiritual. I thank God for a crown of life that I will receive after this life, or something like that. The point here is just make it intentional, make it a practice, and then thankfulness will, it starts to come naturally. I just kind of want to leave you with this. Retirement gives you something most of your life didn't, and that is time. Even when you're younger, you've got school and so on. But now, no school, no work, typically. And one of the best things you can do is to slow down and just be thankful. Something else, that I want to point out too is they have found that this also works on your physical health, and your mental health, your emotional health, cardiovascular health is better, sleep is better, nervous system, so on. So that's something else to keep in mind. There's a side benefit. So here's my challenge for you this week. Every morning for 7 days, before you do anything else, thank God for 3 specific things, and then see what happens to your outlook, on the day's that you do that. And at the end of 7 days. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I really would. What are you grateful for today? Put it in below. I'll read every one of them. If this video has meant something to you, please do that. So until next time, God bless you. We'll see you in the next one.